Well, my dear friends, we live in a world that is full of many opinions. And this is not just in several areas of our lives. And if we think about it, there is hardly any area of life that we are confined to just one opinion, especially in our society where diversity is greatly embraced. And it goes from what we eat to what we shop, where to shop, to what we watch and listen to, what service we choose, even to whom we vote for. My friends, sometimes the variety of opinions can be confusing, and sometimes even extremely frustrating. Why? Because there may be times that we can be so conflicted with choosing this thing, but at the same time we want a bit of the other thing as well. And sometimes in our daily choices, there can be a lot of differing opinions, and it can happen in situations with what to buy, with what to wear, also with what to eat, or with all other more pressing and significant decisions. And we can be so very indecisive. We can be so torn between the various opinions. And is it not something that we hear from our friends and loved ones and even we ourselves? And we may say something like this, I just don't know what to choose from. I am so divided. I am just so undecided. But my friends, this is not simply a problem that we face in our lives on earth in general, or when we come to the time of even federal elections. No, it is a problem that we face in our spiritual life, regardless of how young we are converted or not this afternoon. This is a real problem, and indeed, this is not something only for the 21st century postmodern diverse society and culture. This is something that the people of Israel have encountered too. And so let us continue on in our series of studies in the book of 1 Kings, as we are going through the mini-series on the life and ministry of Elijah, under the overall theme, faithfulness in the face of apostasy. And the sermon title for this afternoon is this: Faltering between opinions. Faltering between opinions. And by God's grace and with his help, we shall be looking at verses 19 to 21 of chapter 18. And we shall be considering these verses under the three thoughts. Firstly, the drawing lures of Baal. Secondly, the demanding question from Yahweh. And thirdly and finally, the deafening silence of the people. Faltering between opinions. The drawing lures, the demanding question, and finally, the deafening silence. And dear friends, those of us who have been going through this study may remember that we have been going through this chapter 18 for some time. And do we recall that it has been 3.5 years that the northern kingdom has been suffering this drought? And the effect has been so very widespread, as it has gone beyond the borders of Israel. There has been this famine, and many are dying of hunger and of thirst. And yes, the situation is going to change soon. There is going to be rain soon. However, before the rain is to come, the Lord will make himself known. In other words, before the gift is given, the giver himself is to be shown throughout the land and beyond. And therefore, as we consider Chapter 18, one of the most significant chapters in 1 Kings, not only do we see the reappearance of Elijah in the northern kingdom, we see there is a contrast, a contest set in the history of redemption. Not simply between Elijah and King Ahab or Elijah with the other prophets. No, ultimately it is between Yahweh the Lord and the false idol Baal. And so let us read verse 19. It says, "Now therefore send and gather all Israel to me on Mount Carmel, the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table." Friends, we see something here. On the one hand, we have Elijah standing on the Lord's side, coming in the name of the Lord, confronting the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah. And do we see that's a staggering number of these prophets, 850 of them together. And these are not just religious workers coming out of nowhere. No, they are employed. They are supported by the government of the day, the royal family of Israel. In fact, 400 of them, the 400 prophets of Asherah, they would have the VIP status to the royal feast, constantly in the presence of the queen. And they have free access to the palace, free access to enjoy the royal privileges of the state. And these are the ones whom Elijah is standing against. Friends, do we see the picture here painted for us? Humanly speaking, Elijah the Tishbite, a nobody, is standing against the religious establishment of the day, against 850 of these who are back at the time of the Reformation, of Martin Luther, standing against the Church of Rome. Well, Elijah here is in a very similar situation, if not worse situation. He seems to be the odd one out at this very time at Mount Carmel. And can we imagine the scene before us? We have this Elijah, a man wearing camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist, confronting 850 prophets in all of their fancy religious events. And if that is not confronting enough, we read in verse 20, it says, "So Ahab sent for all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together on Mount Carmel." My friends, this contest has also gathered so many of Israel to see. And it would have been a very mixed crowd. And what do I mean by that? There are those who are so committed to the worship of Baal, who see Elijah as nothing but a troublemaker, a troubler of Israel, who have come to simply see Elijah's downfall and hopefully death in their minds. And among them would be King Ahab and Jezebel and those who are part of the religious establishment. And also, we have another group, a little group from within the audience, within the crowd, who are part of the 7,000 faithfuls, devoted to the Lord, who refuse to bend their knees before Baal. But not only that, we have the third group, another group, and that would be the largest group of people, the group that are rather undecided, not too sure about who is going to win, not too sure about whether Elijah or the Baal prophets are right, who is right. Many of them may not even care about that. They're simply glad to be sitting on the fence. And they don't mind having a wee bit of Yahweh and having a wee bit of Baal as long as life is good, as far as they are concerned. And it is at this very time we see the confrontation here. And this confrontation is not between Elijah and Ahab. It is not between Elijah and the prophets either. No, the confrontation here, right this moment, is rather between Elijah and the people of God, the people of Israel. And it is, when we can read and see the first part of verse 21, it says, "And Elijah came to all the people and said, 'How long will you falter between two opinions?'" My dear friends, the word falter here gives us the picture of someone who is limping along, toppling from side to side, hobbling. And like someone who is walking on one level with a one foot and then the other foot on the other level. And it is a picture of a person who is not walking uprightly in the Lord according to his word. But why? What is influencing them? Why are most of the people of Israel, why are they finding themselves in this situation, undecided and divided? And that takes us to our first point, the drawing lures of Baal, the drawing lures of Baal. My friends, as we look at the people of Israel spiritually, this is how they walk, limping, straddling the fence between the two opinions, between the Lord Yahweh and Baal. And perhaps as we see the situation, we might be scratching our heads as to why. Why would they be so drawn to Baal? And we may want to ask, well, what is the appeal with Baal? And we ourselves are not likely tempted to this Baal worship in any strict sense, I trust. However, if we consider the whole religion of Baal worship, what it meant to the northern kingdom at that time, we may see, humanly speaking, a number of drawing features that are so alluring to the people. For one thing, as mentioned earlier, Baalism isn't just a voluntary religious organization in Israel. It is a state-funded religion with a royal endorsement from the king and the queen. And it is not just a religious group. Baalism is truly at that time the state church. And the queen herself is publicly known for her devotion to Baal and Asherah. And not only do we see here in our text in how she provides for the prophets during this time of famine and drought, and she is someone been known for her zealous endeavor to promote the worship of Baal. Yes, even if that means actively eliminating and destroying the prophets of the God of Israel, all under the approval of King Ahab. And this is far beyond some religious policies of the northern kingdom. It has profound implications. My friends, let's think about it. This so-called national religion has both the endorsement of the royal family and the financial backing of the national government. And those who are in the religion, we know that, don't we? We can see that. They have so much power over the lives and politics of the nation. In other words, if a person wants to get ahead in life during this time of shortages of food and water, at this time of economic downturn, well, joining Baalism would be the way to go. And if they were a financial newspaper at that time, if there was a guide to teach people how to fit in, to be popular, well, the way would be climbing up the ladder in Israel through Baal. And there is so much incentive in worshipping this false idol. The talk of the day may well be, well, how to be a prophet to be on the government payroll. And not just that, there is also the lure of tradition, in history. This religion, Baalism, has been so well established. Baalism is, in fact, regarded as the ancient religion of the land. It was here in the land before the Israelites crossed the Jordan. In other words, Baalism is not some kind of a new religion or the latest fad, or in our Australian terms, Baalism was the religion of the original custodians of the land of Canaan. All the practices have hundreds of years in history. Yet in the eyes of the Northern Kingdom, it is not an outdated religion. Why? Because it appeals to the felt needs of the people in their times. And how do we know that? Well, remember, Baal is known as the storm god, the fertility god, the god who brings rain, who can give blessings to man, who can fill the storehouses with plenty of crops and all kinds of produce. And Baal is responsible for procreation and health. And so we can imagine, can we not, the slogans of the day in the Northern Kingdom would be, you want more grain, you want more rain, prosperity and children, call upon Baal. Good health, Baal. More cattle, Baal. But there is also another drawing lure, and that is a lure of sensuality. As mentioned in some sermons ago, in the worship of Baal there is this temple prostitution. Sexual immorality is built into the liturgy for all worshippers. And it doesn't matter what stage of life a person is in, married or not, happy in their marriage or not, they are licensed to engage in such gross immorality as part of their so-called worship. And this would have appealed to the sin and the fleshly lusts of man. And all these drawing lures would have made Baalism so very popular. My dear friends, if we consider these things, do we see something here? Do we see that our own society and culture are actually not that far from the Northern Kingdom? Yes, Baalism may not be too well known to the majority of our society, but do we see that the spirit of Baalism is so very much alive, more than ever, in our world? And sadly, Christians are not immune to these drawing lures either. And what are they? Do we not see the lure of worldliness when we are tempted to think about earthly things more than heavenly things? When we think about the riches of this world